India.
Good morning, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next hour, US President to hold talks with Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in San Francisco on sidelines of APEC summit. Talks aim to resume US-China military communications. Israel raids al-Shifa hospital. Raids target specified area of hospital. Asks Hamas to surrender. On the occasion of National Tribal Pride Day, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will kickstart Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, a nationwide outreach and awareness campaign. And tabletoppers India to clash with New Zealand in the first Cricket World Cup 2023 semi-final in Mumbai. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping will discuss improving communication and addressing competition at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit on Wednesday. The meeting in San Francisco Bay Area will be the first face-to-face meeting between Biden and Xi in a year. It will be only the second in-person meeting between the two leaders since Biden took office in January 2021. The agenda of the meeting is to resume normal communications between the two superpowers, including military-to-military contacts. And Ira Spitzer has more from the APEC summit in San Francisco.
Both Joe Biden and Xi Jinping have arrived in San Francisco ahead of this long-anticipated meeting on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. Top officials from both countries have exchanged visits over the past few months, setting the stage for the leaders to actually meet. Now, this will be the first time that Xi and Biden have met face-to-face since almost exactly a year ago on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Bali. Speaking ahead of the meeting, President Biden said one of the outcomes that he will be looking for from this sit-down with the Chinese president is the resumption of military-to-military communications, which China cut off in the wake of several diplomatic incidents, including the visit by then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to the island of Taiwan last year, followed by the U.S. shooting down a Chinese balloon that had entered U.S. airspace earlier this year. Chinese officials have said that President Xi will be seeking assurances that the U.S. is not seeking a new Cold War, and the Chinese leader has long expressed frustration with U.S. military engagement in the region, especially in the waters of the Pacific, as well as long-standing U.S. support for the island of Taiwan, which, of course, China claims as its own territory. President Biden also plans to discuss the ongoing conflicts in both Gaza and Ukraine. And now China, of course, has much closer relationships with both Russia and Iran than the U.S. does. Two countries very much involved in those conflicts. And the U.S. has recently expressed concern about Chinese firms supplying material support to the Russian military, allegedly supplying that support, which would be a violation of U.S. sanctions. Now, one area where the White House has expressed some optimism is the possibility of an agreement with China to help stem the flow of the synthetic opioid fentanyl, as well as the precursors used to make fentanyl from China. Now, that drug has been largely responsible for the overdose epidemic here in the U.S., including here in San Francisco. Now, almost no one is expecting any major breakthroughs to come out of this meeting. However, just the fact that these leaders are talking at all is significant, given the recent breakdown of the relationship. And for that reason, the eyes of the world will be very much focused on this city and this meeting. Ira Spitzer reporting in San Francisco for DD India.
Strengthening security and defense cooperation will also be the agenda at the 10th ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting plus beginning Thursday in Indonesian capital Jakarta. The ADMM is the highest defense consultative and cooperative mechanism in ASEAN. The ADMM Plus is a platform for the ASEAN member states and its 8 dialogue partners, including India, US, China, Russia, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will address the forum on regional and international security issues. Well, Patrick Falk joins us with more from Singapore. Patrick, President Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping are likely to cover a lot of ground that will also be discussed in Jakarta. So just how significant is the ASEAN Defence Ministers meeting?
Yeah, it's a good question. And one of the key items on the agenda in Jakarta is going to be rising tension in the South China Sea, particularly between China and the Philippines. That is also likely to be a hot topic of conversation between President Biden and President Xi in San Francisco. President Biden and President Xi in San Francisco later today. So there is a question mark as to whether or not one set of discussions will outweigh the other. Nevertheless, the Americans are represented by Defense Chief Lloyd Austin. It's not clear who the Chinese will be represented by following the somewhat mysterious disappearance of Defense Minister Li Shangfu, who was also later ousted from his post officially. Experts have suggested that the Chinese will want to send a suitable substitute because it wants to be seen to be taking these discussions with ASEAN neighbors seriously. Now, this comes following one of the most testy confrontations in the South China Sea with Chinese naval vessels in recent days encircling Philippine ships on a resupply mission to the second Thomas Shoal. The Chinese side is also accused of firing a water cannon at a Philippine motorboat. And experts have said that this incident should act as a foundation for developing precautionary measures so that these sorts of situations don't veer into any broader confrontation. So it is going to be a closely watched discussion. The Philippine side may want ASEAN members to criticize China, but that's unlikely to happen given the fact that there are differences between ASEAN member nations. They have their own territorial disputes among themselves. Any sort of joint communique is likely to focus more on getting the US and China to dial down the possibility of any conflict within the region that could draw in ASEAN members as well. But, you know, as you say, these discussions are likely to be somewhat overshadowed by the talks in San Francisco.
All right. And Patrick, India is also participating as one of the dialogue partners of the Defense Ministers Meeting Plus grouping. What can you tell us?
Yeah, that's right. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh will be attending the talks in Jakarta, as you mentioned, as one of the dialogue partners. Those partners include the likes of Japan and South Korea and New Zealand and Australia as well. He will be addressing the forum and also will be holding a series of bilateral meetings with ASEAN defense chiefs. Now, India's participation has added urgency in recent days following events that have been taking place in Myanmar with intensifying fighting going on in the country. It's also seen thousands of people flee across the border from Myanmar into Mizoram state in India. So this is an opportunity for India's defense minister to discuss how to better coordinate and handle the fighting that's going on between Myanmar's army and insurgents, which is likely to intensify in the coming days.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for joining in. And now shifting focus to Israel-Hamas conflict. The Israeli military said it was carrying out an operation against Hamas in the Gaza's al-shifa hospital on Wednesday and urged all members of the terrorist group in the hospital to surrender. The Israeli Defense Forces, in a statement, said IDF forces are carrying out a precise and targeted operation against Hamas in a specified area in the Shifa hospital. The operation is based on intelligence information and an operational necessity. Israel has said that Hamas has a command center underneath al-shifa hospital, the biggest in Gaza, and uses the hospital and tunnels underneath to conceal military operations and to hold hostages. Hamas denies it. The US said on Tuesday that its own intelligence supported those conclusions. The World Health Organization has praised staff at Gaza's al-Shifa hospital for doing everything they can to care for patients despite being in turbulent times.
Everyone in that hospital is in a really, really dire situation. All their lives are so threatened. So we as the world have to find a way to help them. The best way would be to stop the hostilities right now, focus on saving lives, not taking lives. It seems to be that somehow the understanding that a hospital must be a safe haven, a place where people come to be cured, to be treated when they are in trouble, when they are in need, it has been forgotten. And there seems to be a trend to want to turn them into places of death, despair, and danger, which should never happen.
The United States has called for the evacuation of patients from Gaza hospitals to keep them safe from harm. The U.S. State Department spokesperson expressed support for an independent third party to conduct the evacuations.
We want hospitals to be protected. We don't want to see any civilians, and certainly not babies in incubators or other vulnerable populations, caught in a crossfire. We want Hamas to stop using hospitals as a command post. That would be the easiest way to solve this problem, if they would stop using the civilians that are in hospitals as humanitarian shields. But then I would also say that we want there to be safe evacuation for patients at hospitals so they can get out of harm's way. We would support an independent third party or respected third party to conduct those evacuations.
Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on Tuesday said Israeli forces were in control of the center of Gaza City, having defeated the Hamas Islamist group in the northern Gaza. Israel vowed to wipe out Hamas after October 7 attack.
You have seen the Golani soldiers sitting in Gaza's parliament. This is of great importance. I can say to you that in the north of Gaza, Hamas has lost control, and in fact we are in control in the entire central theater of the Gaza Strip, in the north of the Strip, and in particular in Gaza City. We are committed to two goals and two goals only. First, to defeat Hamas, to eliminate its infrastructure, its government and its military. Second, to return the hostages.
Israel's army, in a video released on Tuesday, showed soldiers finding weapons inside Hamas's buildings in Gaza. In a post to social media platform X, the Israeli army said soldiers secured the Hamas legislature and government building, the Hamas police headquarters, and an engineering faculty used for weapons production and development. Small arms, rifles, bullets, and at least the outer shells of precision-guided bombs appear in the Israeli military's footage. Meanwhile, the United States, in coordination with the UK, has imposed a third round of sanctions on individuals and groups affiliated with the Hamas. The United States said the sanctions target key Hamas officials and the mechanism through which Iran provides support to Hamas and its ally, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, another terrorist group. While Britain added sanctions on 4 Hamas senior leaders and 2 financiers, the Foreign Office said in a statement, including the group's political leader in Gaza and the commander of its military arm. The US has reiterated that it will continue to work with its partners to deny Hamas the ability to raise and use funds to carry out its violent attacks. As Israel combats Hamas, Yemen's Houthi group claimed to have launched a batch of ballistic missiles against various Israeli targets. The launch came just 24 hours after another military operation carried out by our armed forces using drones on the same targets, the spokesperson added. Houthis' military spokesperson also said that the group will not hesitate to target any Israeli ship in the Red Sea or at any other place the group could reach.
Our armed forces have launched a batch of ballistic missiles at various targets of the Israeli enemy in the occupied Palestinian territories, including sensitive targets in the area of al-Rashrash, just 24 hours after another military operation carried out by our armed forces using drones on the same targets. The armed forces will not hesitate to target any Israeli ship in the Red Sea or any location that falls within our reach, starting from the moment this statement is announced.
And demonstrators conducted a rally in Washington to show solidarity with Israel in its conflict with Hamas and condemn rising anti-Semitism. Streets were closed around much of downtown amid heightened security as tens of thousands of people participated in March for Israel. Demonstrators were also draped in Israeli and US flags to show their support. Meanwhile, the start of the rainy season in Gaza on Tuesday has piled on even more despair as many find themselves homeless or living makeshift tents, with the prospect of flooding causing apprehension about the spread of disease. The United Nations relief agency UNRWA has reported that 580,000 displaced people in southern Gaza have sought shelter, and that overcrowding coupled with heavy rain will make conditions even worse. World Health Organization spokesperson Margaret Harris has issued a statement on the difficulty of the situation for already displaced in Gaza, saying rain will just add to the further suffering. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Rescue operation underway on day 4 to evacuate trapped tunnel workers in northern Indian state of Uttarakhand. 14 Indo-Pacific Economic Framework countries ink first of its kind supply chain resilience agreement. And in a rare incident, a wild elephant gave birth to a calf in the premises of a house. Where? We tell you later. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and India celebrates Tribal Pride Day on Wednesday. This year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Jharkhand's capital Ranchi and the museum that celebrates the life of great tribal leader Birsa Munda and the tribal freedom fighters of India.
15th of November is celebrated as the National Tribal Pride Day. This day also marks the birth anniversary of the tallest tribal leader Birsa Munda. This year, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Jharkhand, his birthplace, to pay tribute to the great man. It was in Ranchi where Birsa Munda laid down his life fighting against British and for the tribal rights and freedom of India. This jail, which functioned till 2010, is now converted into a museum. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit the museum on 15th of November and pay floral tributes to Bhagwan Birsa Munda. The museum also showcases the life and history of the tribal leader, his journey from his younger days to his freedom struggle. Not just this, the museum also depicts the tribal culture and their way of life for people from across the country to come and witness the life and history of tribal India.
जनजातीय शहीद संग्रहालय ही है, लेकिन अब आदिवासियत को हम व्याख्यायित करेंगे तो पूरे आदिवासी जीवन को हमने दिखाने की कोशिश की है। उनके पूरा जन्म से लेके नामकरण से लेके और अंतिम संस्कार की बातें भी वहां कही गई हैं। आप घूम के देखेंगे तो उनके सारे कर्मा, सरहुल, सोहराय सब पर्व त्योहार के बारे में वहां बताया गया है।
The prison also preserved the barrack number 4, where Birsa Munda was imprisoned and eventually laid down his life inside the same room. The barrack number 4 has also been converted into resting place for Birsa Munda.
On 15th of November every year, India celebrates the National Tribal Pride Day, a day where tribal leaders are paid respect throughout the country. This year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Ranchi and will also visit this very same museum where Birsa Munda, a tall tribal leader who is also regarded as one of the tallest of all the tribal leaders in India, has sacrificed his life here fighting the British. From Ranchi, this is Dibyendu Model for DD India.
And DD correspondent Dibyendu Model joins us from Ranchi. Dibyendu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Jharkhand, where he will be visiting birthplace of Bhagwan Birsa Munda. What's the latest you're getting for us?
Well, Siddharth, remember the Prime Minister is already in Ranchi. He has arrived here last night. He had done a roadshow here in Ranchi. We are on our way to Ulihatu, which is the birthplace of Birsa Munda, and Prime Minister is expected to visit the same birthplace of Lord Birsa Munda by about 10:30 in the morning today. But before he visits the birthplace, he will be going to the museum at about 9:30 in the morning, where he will be there for about 15 minutes. He will also pay floral tributes to Birsa Munda at Barrack number 4, where Birsa Munda laid down his life fighting the British. From there, he will, of course, as I said, he will be coming down to Ulihatu, which is about 50 kilometers from the state capital, Ranchi. He will also be meeting with the families of Birsa Munda. There are two great grandson of Birsa Munda who currently resides in the Ulihatu village, right next to the same very house where Birsa Munda was born in 1857. So he will also be talking to other tribal family members of Birsa Munda who are here. After that, Prime Minister will, of course, go to Khuti, which is again about 30 kilometers from the state capital, Ranchi, where he will address a mega rally, and he will announce several schemes from that particular rally.
Well, certainly, Dibyendu, Prime Minister will also launch Pradhan Mantri, particularly Vulnerable Tribal Groups Development Mission. Tell us something about that.
Well, this particular mission will be launched. Remember, before I go into the details, this particular mission was announced in the 2023-24 budget. This is about 24,000 crore outlay was earmarked in the budget, and the Prime Minister is going to launch this, formally launch this scheme on a day, remember, when the world, in fact, the world and the nation is celebrating National Pride, Tribal Pride Day. And this mission is all about schemes that will benefit and that will that talks about the welfare of the tribal community across the country. There are several tribal communities who are living in very poor conditions. So this huge outlay of money that the Prime Minister and several schemes which in conjunction with several other schemes from various ministries will benefit the tribal community not only in Jharkhand but across India. So this particular scheme also talks about giving electricity connection, internet connection, digital connections, and also digital literacy, as well as skill development to the tribal community across the country. The community which had been neglected for years will now benefit from this mega scheme, which will be announced by the Prime Minister this afternoon.
All right, Dibyendu, thanks for your analysis. Now shifting focus, India joined US and 12 other Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity partners to ink the IPEF Supply Chain Resilience Agreement. Indian Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is in San Francisco, where this first-of-its-kind international agreement was inked. The agreement will fortify and strengthen global supply chains and foster adaptability, stability and sustainability. On the occasion, Piyush Goyal thanked US Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo for her leadership and personal commitment in ensuring this truly historic movement towards a more resilient future. Besides, on the sidelines of IPEF meeting, Piyush Goyal met his counterparts from Malaysia and Indonesia and also President of American Semiconductor Company. First, he had a productive discussion with his Malaysian counterpart. The Indian minister urged Malaysia, which is the ASEAN coordinator for India, for an early conclusion of review of the AITIGA agreement. Piyush Goyal then held a productive discussion on deepening India-Indonesia trade and investment ties with Indonesia's coordinating minister for economic affairs. The India minister also met President and CEO of Lam Research, Tim Archer. They discussed innovation-led future and investment opportunities in India's semiconductor and deep tech space that is ably supported by a robust talent pool. The annual apex-level international conference of the Indian Navy, the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue, will begin here in New Delhi from Wednesday. The overreaching theme of IPRD 2023 is geopolitical impacts upon Indo-Pacific maritime trade and connectivity. This is addition of the IPRD builds upon the previous one, which is focused upon operationalizing the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative by specifically addressing the trade, connectivity and maritime transport pillar of IPOI. Both trade and maritime transport are, of course, segments of maritime connectivity. The IPRD is the principal manifestation of the Navy's international engagement at the strategic level, addressing holistic maritime security issues across the Indo-Pacific. IPRD 2023 will, through the agency of a series of globally renowned subject matter experts and eminent speakers, explore geopolitical impacts upon Indo-Pacific maritime trade and connectivity through 6 professional sessions spread over a 3-day period. In a statement at the UN summit, the Counselor for India's permanent mission to the United Nations, Prateek Mathur, underscored the need for the revitalization of the UN General Assembly. He also emphasized a growing perception that the General Assembly has gradually lost touch with its foundational responsibilities and has become overwhelmed with processes.
The attempts to discuss thematic issues in the Security Council has also undermined the role and authority of the General Assembly. Hence, my delegation would like to reiterate that India has consistently advocated the view that General Assembly can be revitalized only when its position as the chief deliberative, policy-making and representative organ of the United Nations is respected both in letter and in spirit. The General Assembly should take the lead in setting the global agenda and restoring the centrality of the United Nations in formulating multilateral approaches to resolving transnational issues.
India proudly unveiled its cutting-edge HAL twin-engine deck-based fighter at the Dubai Air Show, a key addition to the Indian Navy's arsenal. The twin engines enable shorter takeoffs from Indian Navy carriers. India's participation reflects its dedication to excellence and innovation in aviation, showcased finally at the Dubai Air Show.
We are showcasing a lot of DRDO products in the Dubai Air Show 2023. And twin-engine deck-based fighter, TED-BF, is one of the leading technologies which we are showcasing in Dubai Air Show. This is an aircraft which is having the capability of stow bar. This is a carrier-borne aircraft. Stow bar means short takeoff but arrested recovery. This aircraft is capable to land within a short span of 90 meters and take off within a short span of 200 meters. This aircraft, we have got various features for the stowage on the aircraft carrier, that is folded wing. So wings can be folded in this aircraft. This has got a very good payload capacity, that is 7.5 tons. This is having twin engine and it has got a lot of new avionics, advanced sensors fused into the aircraft to suffice it for the requirement of the modern warfare scenario. This aircraft is one of the challenging aircraft now, which will be replacing MiG-29K for the Indian Navy.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. European Union to miss target of a mission shell rounds to Ukraine at a time of shortage complaints. Poland's newly elected parliament meets for the first time. And we tell you how a crucifix stuck in child's throat was removed by a medical team. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and let's have a look at the headlines once again. U.S. President to hold talks with Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in San Francisco on sidelines of APEC summit. Talks aim to resume U.S.-China military communications. Israel raids al-Shifa hospital. Raids target specified area of hospital. Asks Hamas to surrender. On the occasion of National Tribal Pride Day, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will kickstart Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, a nationwide outreach and awareness campaign. And tabletop is India to clash with New Zealand in the first Cricket World Cup 2023 semi-final in Mumbai. And we tell you more about the lead story we are tracking here at the News Hour. APEC summit begins today with Biden and Xi attending it. While from India, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal will attend it as a guest of the US government. He is participating in a series of meetings aimed at boosting India's trade ties with APEC members. As DD India's Simon Marks reports from the summit side, he is also expected briefly to meet President Joe Biden as the summit advances.
President Biden is now in San Francisco, and India's Commerce and Industry Secretary Piyush Goyal will be among the international leaders and officials that he meets. The two are expected to have a brief interaction, and of course the minister will be included in the APEC group photo that will become the historic image of this summit that is dominating life here in San Francisco this week. India, of course, is not a member of APEC. The minister is attending at the invitation of the host government, the United States. He's already attended a ministerial meeting at which continued efforts were made to hammer out final language for the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. Disagreements, though, about trade are, says the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, now going to delay the deal from being inked. It will, she says, have to wait until after the summit ends. Minister Goyal has meetings here with US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo and US Trade Representative Catherine Tai on his agenda. The Indian government says the aim of those interactions are to fortify the partnership between the US and India and strengthen trade and economic ties. He's also met with Singapore's Minister for Trade and Industry, the first of several bilateral meetings that he'll hold on the sidelines of the summit here throughout the rest of this week. Simon Marks for DD India at the APEC summit in San Francisco.
Let's now get you the latest on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Russia has suffered heavy losses in Avdiivka city. He added that the setbacks will affect Moscow's plans in the broader conflict. The statement came as Zelensky's chief of staff for the first time that acknowledged that Ukraine's forces have established a foothold in southern Kherson, potentially opening a new line of attack towards Crimea. Meanwhile, Russia said that it repelled Ukrainian attacks near Bakhmut.
Russia is already losing soldiers and equipments under Avdiivka faster and on a large scale than, for example, under Bakhmut. The more Russian forces are destroyed near Avdiivka, the worse the overall situation will be for the enemy for the course of the war.
And European Union will miss target to deliver 1 million rounds of ammunition to Ukraine by March due to production difficulties. EU also plans for a joint rapid response force by 2025. Let's take a look at our correspondent Alex Cadier's report from Brussels.
The EU's ambition to deliver 1 million rounds of ammunition was one of the bloc's flagship plans in its support of Ukraine. It was meant to happen in 3 phases. The first would see member states dig into their stocks and deliver what they could spare to Ukraine's armed forces. The second would see them strike deals with weapons makers. And the third would boost funding to encourage them to ramp up ammunition production. EU countries were able to deliver 300,000 rounds of ammunition from their own stocks. But those last 2 phases have proved trickier than expected. The EU's weapons manufacturers have been reluctant to divert existing orders to focus on Ukraine. At a meeting of the EU's defence ministers, Germany's Boris Pistorius said the target will be missed. Even as the European Union's top diplomat says, there's still hope.
Maybe we will not have 1 million by March, but it will depend on how quickly the orders comes to the industry and how quickly the industry reacts. So both things could be true at the same time. The capacity of the industry and the deliveries to the industry, and from the industry to us, and from us to the Ukraine.
Also on the agenda for the EU's defence chiefs was a new proposal for a joint EU rapid response force. The new force will consist of at least 5,000 troops from across the Union, deployable on short notice to international crises around the world. Ministers expect it to be up and running by 2025, a sign that the EU and its defence ministers are racing to adapt to a rapidly evolving world. Alex Cadye in Brussels reporting for DD India.
Poland's parliament held its first session since an election last month. President Andrzej Duda has asked incumbent Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki to form a new government. But the chances of that happening is slim, as the PM's Law and Justice Party lost its majority in the polls and all other parties have ruled out working with them. In a speech, President Duda said that 8 years of the Law and Justice Party rule had been good years for Poland.
A possible presidential veto cannot be an excuse for not fulfilling your election promises. I take my words extremely seriously. You also have promises that you made to Poles, and I ask you to fulfill them.
Michigan judge says Trump will remain on primary ballot, rejecting challenge under insurrection clause. And as Tony Waterman explains, this case could set a precedent for similar lawsuits making their way through the courts in other states, with the presidential election now less than a year away.
This entire case and the ones like it centers around a Civil War-era amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment, which says that any person who has sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, which U.S. presidents do, is disqualified from holding office if they have engaged in insurrection and rebellion. And the argument from the plaintiffs is that Donald Trump is ineligible because of his role in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. But the former president's lawyers have argued that he didn't incite the violence. At the end of the day, the judge in this case will have to decide on some fairly complex legal questions, like, was January 6th an actual insurrection? And does this amendment even apply to presidents? This amendment has only been applied twice since 1919, so there's very little precedence, and the lawsuit has always been considered a long shot for the prosecution. Not only has Trump not been convicted of insurrection, but he hasn't even been charged with it in the 4 criminal cases against him. So far, the courts have been pretty hesitant to keep Trump off the ballot. Minnesota's Supreme Court dismissed a similar lawsuit earlier this month, but said it only applied to the state's primary election, leaving the door open to a general election challenge. While a judge in Michigan has heard arguments on a case citing the same provision. Appeals are expected regardless of the outcomes in any of these cases, which means that the issue is likely to land before the U.S. Supreme Court. In Austin, Tony Waterman reporting for DD India.
UK Supreme Court will today deliver its ruling on whether the government can go ahead with its plan to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda. The decision is crucial for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak ahead of an expected poll next year. In a top court, the government challenged a ruling that declared the plan unlawful. The UK government hopes that the Rwanda scheme will help stop the flow of migrants across the channel from Europe in small boats. Curbing the entry of illegal immigrants was also one of Sunak's key policy pledges. In the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand, relief and rescue operations are still underway for the 4th day to evacuate the 40 trapped workers from the Silkyara tunnel collapse site. The authorities are continuously in connection with the trapped workers via walkie-talkie. The Uttarakhand government has set up a 6-member expert committee to probe the incident. The 40 workers who have been trapped in the collapsed tunnel for 2 days now are safe. They are being given food, water and oxygen. Amid a high danger alert issued by Brazil's Meteorology Institute due to the scorching heat wave, beachgoers in Rio de Janeiro sought respite in the sea. As temperatures soared to 58.5 degrees Celsius early morning on Monday, locals took precautions against the sweltering sun. The alert, effective until Friday, has been sparked by the climatic influence of the El Nino phenomenon and global warming, intensifying the nation's 4th heat wave of this year. According to the World Food Programme, a quarter of Somalia's population is at risk of facing crisis-level hunger or worse due to climate change-induced drought and floods. These climate shocks have killed livestock and ruined farmland. Roads in Dolo are now rivers, and there is a severe shortage of goods. Deadly floods have displaced over 100,000 people, and rescue efforts are ongoing. Climate activist Greta Thunberg faces London court over public order offence after an environmental protest in the city. Thunberg was charged following a demonstration at an oil and gas conference. Known for her global climate activism, Thunberg could be fined up to £2,500 if found guilty. This incident follows previous arrests and removals from protests in Sweden, Norway and Germany. Kenya hosts talks to create a binding agreement to tackle global plastic pollution. Stakeholders want oil-producing nations to be heavily involved. Deadline for a treaty is March 2024, with slow progress raising concerns. DD India's correspondent Isabel reports from Kampala.
It will be the first legally binding treaty to reduce plastic pollution, which environment campaigners warn could double in the next 20 years. Last year, more than 170 countries agreed to have a UN treaty to combat plastic pollution. Leaders of the global plastic industry are advocating for greater recycling to solve the plastic waste crisis, while environment groups are calling this position destructive from the real solutions to produce less plastic. Less than 10% of plastic waste is recycled, and millions of tons of plastic products are tossed each year or improperly burned. Some plastic industry manufacturers say the document should take into consideration developing countries that benefit from plastic. Less developed countries may find the transition harder, worried the pact may affect their economies still earning from production of plastic. There is concern that time is running out to reach a real deal with the deadline set for March 2024. But with 400 million tons of plastic waste produced each year, global leaders are concerned that progress to come up with a treaty is slow. The meeting ends on Sunday, and delegates hope to make considerable headway by then. Isabel Nakiria in Kampala, reporting for DD India.
Well, let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A semi-truck collided with a charter bus near Route 310 in Licking County, resulting in 6 deaths and 18 injuries. The charter bus was carrying students from school in eastern Ohio. Authorities are investigation is going on, but have not yet provided notifications to families. A 10-month-old child in Peru was found to have swallowed a crucifix, which was successfully removed by medical staff. The crucifix was lodged in the child's esophagus, and she underwent an endoscopy. The mother, Mary Carmen Sayami Rosas, discovered the crucifix and took the child to the hospital, where she is now in good health. New York surgeons have performed the first ever whole eye transplant in a human despite the patient not regaining sight. The grafted eye performed during a partial face transplant has shown signs of health, including well-functioning blood vessels and a promising-looking retina. The transplant surgery took 21 hours and involved injecting adult stem cells into the optic nerve to encourage healing. In a rare incident, a wild elephant gave birth to a calf in the premises of a house near Karda village in South Indian state of Karnataka. It is reported that a wild elephant has given birth to her baby in house premises during the night and left. The local people took care of the baby elephant. Still to come on DD India News Hour. US House passes spending bill to avert government shutdown. US stocks surged after fresh data revealed inflation slowed more than analysts expected. And Argentina's soccer squad practicing hard ahead of Thursday's World Cup qualifier match against Uruguay.
Turning crisis into opportunity. Transforming ideas into action. Stories of real change. Tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such change makers.
Watch Change Makers on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And the United States House of Representatives passed a temporary spending bill that will prevent a government shutdown. The bill will extend funding through mid-January. It now awaits approval from the Senate before President Joe Biden can sign it into law. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is pleased with the bipartisan support for the bill, and the funding bill will keep federal agencies funded at current levels through 2024, allowing more time for detailed spending bills to be created. The passage of the bill comes after a tumultuous period in the House. U.S. stocks surged Tuesday after fresh data revealed inflation slowed more than analysts expected. October's Consumer Price Index has fueled hopes on Wall Street that the Federal Reserve is finished with its policy of raising interest rates. William Denslow reports from New York.
CPI in October came in flat versus a 0.1% month-on-month increase that analysts had expected. And excluding volatile food and energy prices, so-called core CPI ticked up at its slowest rate in 2 years. This reading from a closely watched inflation gauge has sparked hopes on Wall Street that the Federal Reserve will hold off on any further interest rate hikes as part of its campaign to cool price pressures. The Dow ended the day up 1.4%. The S&P posted its best session since April, closing up 1.9%, and the Nasdaq was up 2.4%. It was also a strong trading day for Home Depot. The home improvement company's shares leapt over 5%, following a strong earnings report. William Denslow in New York reporting for DD India.
On to sports now. India will face New Zealand in the first semi-final of the ongoing World Cup at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai on Wednesday. Rohit Sharma's men aim to continue their flawless record, having triumphed in all 9 of their matches, while Kane Williamson's New Zealand seek to recreate their 2019 semi-final success. Well, Abhishek Mahajan, DD India correspondent, joins us with more from Mumbai. Abhishek, how's the atmosphere at outside Wankhede Stadium? It's the much-anticipated semi-final clash between India and New Zealand. People are certainly looking at 2019, and then it's 2023. Abhishek, can you hear me? I think there is some trouble connecting with our DD India correspondent Abhishek Mahajan. Meanwhile, we move on to chess, wherein
will be electrifying for sure. More than 33,000 people will be there supporting.
Definitely.
Yes, I can, Siddharth.
Yes, definitely. All right. Vidit Gujrati achieved something remarkable by securing victory in the FIDE Grand Swiss, earning a coveted spot in the FIDE Candidates 2024. In a one-on-one with Tapas Bhattacharya, Vidit opens up about grappling with self-doubt and reflects on the significance of his Grand Swiss triumph. Additionally, Grandmaster R. Pragnananda and International Master Vaishali, set to participate in the upcoming prestigious Candidates tournament in Toronto, share insights into their journey. Tune into the exclusive interview with DD India correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya.
Joining me is a 3 superstar of Indian chess, Vidit, Vaishali and Pragnananda, who are making the country proud in the international circuit.
The candidates tournament is a very big goal, which to qualify there was a big goal, and I'm glad that we could achieve it. It's just the last step before playing for the World Championship, so the importance of the event is very high. And regarding the preparations, we are already thinking, at least I'm sure Prag had more time, 1 more month to think about it. But since last week, I've been thinking as well about which tournaments to play, how do we plan, which team to select for this tournament, because that will be very important. And things are now kicking into action. I'm very glad that the Federation today announced the monetary support.
The last few months have been great for me. Yeah, I met Prime Minister Sir before, after World Cup. So yeah, that was a very good experience for me. I mean, to get to interact with him, and he was also giving me some suggestions to do, and yeah, it felt like I was speaking to someone someone from my home. It was just very, very comfortable. I just felt I was at home.
Vaishali, you are now, everybody is looking up to you as a new star on the horizon. How do you see, is there pressure, is there expectation, or what are you thinking?
It's amazing to see a lot of people are following the game, and so far I don't feel the pressure. I'm very excited for the candidates, first of all, and yeah, ASF is ready to support all of us, and it's great, yeah.
How was the whole experience, when you won the tournament and made it qualify?
Yeah, the tournament started on the wrong foot because I had started with a loss. Yeah. And then it looked very, disappointing that how it will happen. But then I won a string of games. And the most important thing was when I needed to win in the last 2 rounds, I managed to do it on demand. So for me personally, it means a lot. It was, I think, world's strongest open in the last decade or so. So to win such a strong event is a huge confidence booster.
Pragya, I'll need to ask you, this is important. The Federation has, given, they said that, go ahead. Don't worry about the money. They have already announced 2 crore, amount for you guys. How does that, help you guys to think not about the money now, consider it on your work?
Yeah, it's a very big support because we got it very quickly actually, and that's very important because we can plan things already, and I think as I said in the press conference, for training it costs a lot, and we have to have a lot of seconds for this tournament, and this tournament is going to be very tough, not only chess wise, also physically, mentally. So we have to be in good shape in everything. I think this will definitely help all of us.
With camera person Jagpal, this is Tapush Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
Argentina's soccer team is gearing up ahead of their World Cup qualifier match against Uruguay, scheduled to take place on Thursday. Soccer star Lionel Messi is also participating in the trainings taking place in Argentine town of Ezeiza. As per midfielder Leandro Paredes, they are expecting Uruguay to be a strong team, and second-placed Uruguay with 7 points will visit South American qualifying leaders Argentina with 12. The All India Chess Federation is embarking on a historic initiative to propel Indian chess to unprecedented heights. Over the past 3 years, the chess landscape in India has undergone substantial reforms. In a strategic move, the Federation has pledged substantial financial support for Grandmasters R. Pragnananda and Vidit Gujrati, along with International Master Vaishali, as they gear up to compete in the prestigious Candidates Tournament in Toronto early next year. Our correspondent Tapush Bhattacharya spoke with AICF President Sanjay Kapoor and Bharat Singh Chauhan, Deputy President of the Asian Chess Federation, to discuss these developments.
Asian Chess Federation and the President of India's National Federation to talk about how they are taking the game of chess forward in India. So first, coming to you, we have seen a lot of countries coming out in Asian circuit, but India still rules the roost, isn't it?
I think not only in Asia, we are ruling the entire world. India is the best place to play chess. That has been admitted by our top players. Magnus Carlsen, Karuna, everybody talk about it. Talk about the facilities, support by the government, the wonderful work by the Federation, and also the wonderful result by our players. So everyone talk about it.
3 of your players are now going to play, and fourth one is almost there. Are you expecting more? You have Vaishali, you have Vidit, and Pragya already confirmed to play the Candidates Tournament.
Karunuru would be the 4th player, can be the 4th player, and I also believe that there should be a 5th player who participates. and it'll be confirmed by 1st of January, I believe. I should pray that 5 players of India participate in that championship. We will be more than 30% of the players there.
8 players will be participating?
3 out of 8 and 2 out of 8.
So 2 crores of monetary help you have already announced for these 3, and if more people join that club. So how you guys plan to split the money?
It will be 30 lakh rupees for each player for training. Another 5 players will be 1.5 crore rupees. And if they need more, we'll see. And there'll be second coaches, there'll be first coach, and the things they need. Another 50 lakh rupees to keep other things on side, so that if they have any demands, they need something, fooding, security, and yoga teachers, other teachers, the whole staff, their staff, to train them.
In the history of Chess Federation, we have never seen a 2 crore of monetary help. What has happened? What changed in the last 5-7 years?
No, we mean business, and I mean money is a very small thing. I think if we win the world champion, it is not only 2 crores. I mean, if we have to spend more, we'll spend more for them. And we want to create world champions for the country.
So that was the president of All India Chess Federation, as well as the deputy president of the Asian Chess Federation, stating that India is on course to have a world champion soon. With camperson Jagpal, this is Tapuj Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
In his ATP Finals debut, Carlos Alcaraz was defeated by 2-time champion Alexander Zverev of Germany. Zverev delivered a clean hitting performance to win 6-7, 6-3, 6-4 against the Spaniard. Zverev made his 6th appearance at the prestigious year-end event. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook and X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram as well. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.